All right, good evening. My name is Cody Daly. I am the College and Career Counselor here at Lyons Township High School. Welcome to tonight's Discover College program. Thank you to all of the students and families for joining us tonight here in the Reber for this informative panel. If the hallway table sessions were any indication, this is going to be a really awesome, engaging, energetic session tonight. Tonight's Discover College panel will provide information about college search, exploration, and really the college admissions process as a whole. Our panelists join us from both 2- and 4-year institutions, both public and private institutions, as well as both in-state and out-of-state institutions. So there are a lot of perspectives here tonight that will be shared. We are truly among experts in their field this evening. In just a few moments, I will ask each panelist to introduce themselves and their institutions to everyone in the room. After panelist intros, we will begin tonight's Q&A that will span multiple topics. Once we are done, if time allows, we will ask the audience to ask a few questions. We would like to keep them general, that all participants, there goes the slideshow, that all panelists can speak to. So if you have specific questions about institutions, again, they will be available at the end. You can certainly ask those as well. Okay. And as I mentioned, they will also be available if you did not grab materials on your way in or did not have time to do so. Those will be available. And if a neighbor or someone you know could not make it tonight, please know that tonight's event is being recorded. So we will be posting it to our College and Career Center event page. So again, if someone you know could not make it, or if you just want to watch this 10 times, you can easily do so from the comfort of your own home. And we want to, as always, thank our amazing partners from LTTV for helping out with tonight's recording. But without further ado, I'm going to turn back on the slideshow because that's a very boring sight right there. We are going to go ahead and get started with tonight's introductions, and we'll start with Robert from the University of Maryland.
Awesome, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Oliveri, and I am the Midwest Regional Recruitment Coordinator with the University of Maryland. For a little bit about our institution, we are a flagship institution in the state of Maryland. We're located in College Park, Maryland. So as you can see in the name, it's a true college town. It's a very traditional type of setting. It's a Big Ten campus, 30,000 undergrads, 40,000 total students. So it definitely radiates a college feel when you step foot on our campus. In addition to that, we are 4 miles outside of the border and 8 miles from the White House. So we're right outside of Washington, D.C. You can get from our campus to the White House in about 25 minutes via public transit. So it's very convenient for all of our majors and all of our students to have phenomenal, life-changing internships throughout their school year, have full-time internships while they're attending class at Maryland. In addition, College Park is wedged right in between D.C. and Baltimore. And if you're just from the Midwest and don't know the East Coast as well, those cities are close together. So Baltimore's only about 40 minutes from our campus. So it's very convenient. Baltimore and D.C. are both very close together, and we are wedged right in the middle of those two. We have over 100 different academic programs at our institution. So it is just phenomenal for students who are undecided or maybe think they know what they want to do but are switching from a couple different majors or options, that they have that versatility at a large institution like Maryland. And then as far as academics, our students traditionally are going to be in mostly honors and APs and mostly A type of students. There can be some Bs, but a majority of As, and typically not much or if any C coursework. And I'll pass it over to you.
Here I am. My name is Karen Smith. I am the Midwest Regional Admission Manager for Beloit College in Beloit, Wisconsin, but I am based here in the Chicago area. I am your neighbor. I'm here in the Chicago area because my institution feels that this is a very important place for us. We are less than 2 hours away from here, right on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, and we are just the opposite of my friend Robert at University of Maryland because we have 1,300 total students, all undergraduates. 50% of our students come from more than 500 miles away from home. When we talk about sending states, where the majority of our students coming from, Illinois, it's a very populous state and nearby. Second largest sending state, California. Then Wisconsin. 20% of our students are international students from over 50 different foreign countries. So we have a very diverse student body. We're a place where the majority of students enter as multi-interested students. We never use the word undecided because most students are not undecided. They have multiple interests. And our curriculum is set up in such a way that students do not need to make a decision about a major until the end of their sophomore year. And they will still graduate in 4 years. 40% of our students double major, another 15% of our students design their own majors. We have long been known for the strength of our anthropology programs and creative writing programs. We also are becoming pretty well known for a very interesting way that we do entrepreneurship on our campus. We talk about the business of art and the art of business. 40% of our students are varsity athletes. We're a Division III school. As far as entrance, most students being admitted to Beloit are pretty solid B or better students, taking some honors and some APs. We are proudly and historically test optional. And we look at students' involvement and recommendations along with other things that they're submitting in their application. I think I hit everything. I think I got everything. Yeah.
I'll have both. Hello, everybody. My name is Rajanda Robinson, and I'm the Senior Assistant Director of Admission at Northwestern. Northwestern is about, from here, about like 30 miles, but we are about 9 miles from downtown Chicago in Evanston, Illinois, which is just north of the city, right along the Lake Michigan. We have actually 2 private beaches. One is right outside of the Visitor Center, so if you come and do a tour, you'll see one of our beaches with our sailing club, and then we also have another beach a little bit further down. We are the smallest of the Big Ten schools. We have about 8,000 undergraduate students, but total we have about 22,000 students at our campus. With our school, you are going to see a little bit of a difference with the way we admit and the way our classes go. So we're on a quarter system versus a semester system, which is going to be a little bit different than some of the other institutions up here. And so you do have the opportunity just to take more classes. So about 80% of our students will leave our campus with a double major, a major, a minor, and a certificate, or a combination of the 3. So we don't make students choose, but in a different way than Beloit. We make you choose something, but then you can add whatever else you want to it. Also with Northwestern, when you are applying, we do have what we call ED, or early decision, meaning that you do have a contract that you sign with us. And then we also have regular decision, which our application is still open. I made sure I put those dates up there for you. And then also with Northwestern, I think it's going to be a little bit different because we are a pretty old campus. So you have a really good mix of old and new. And we are very interesting in that we don't have an undergraduate business major, but we do have the Kellogg School of Business, which is ranked every year across the world. And so if students are interested in business, the belief of Kellogg is that you can major in anything and still be in business. You don't need an undergraduate degree to be a business person because you need all of these other tools also to be business. And so that's kind of the way that we take it. And then I also think with our students, we have students from all 50 states. Because we aren't a public institution, we don't have kind of those ratios of in-state, out-of-state. So we can admit students from wherever if they are an NU student. I also don't mention any middle 50% up here because each student is different, but typically it's going to be those A students, and our acceptance rate is about 7%, but students come from all over in every different area. And hello. Turn it over to my friend here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mayra Lagunas. My pronouns are she, her, and ella, and I'm very proudly a first-generation student. I share that because I think it's important to talk about our experiences at university so you can understand where our perspective lens and very often our advice comes from. I am currently the Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Services and Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies. Yes, I see some excitement in the back. Yes, the Husky sign, in case anyone is curious. Northern Illinois University, NIU, is about 60 miles away from here. We do not have private beaches, but we've got a lot of cornfields if anyone is interested. As far as the eye can see, we do boast a corn fest, and it's so fun. You know, I'm a Chicago native, born and raised, but I will tell you, I've never had as much fun at a corn fest and pumpkin fest as I have at NIU. There's a lot of things to do at this university. Our enrollment is about 16,000 students. We offer over 100 programs of study in 6 different colleges. We are a liberal arts institution. Our students have the ability to mix and match programs. That's opportunities for dual degrees, double majors, minors, certificate programs as well. We are also an institution that's heavily inclined towards supportive students interested in the social justice field. We do have certificate programs specifically for not-for-profit studies and social justice as well. We are a Research 2 institution. Students can get involved in research as early as their first year. We've got athletics. We've got a recreation center on campus. More than anything, though, I encourage you to come and visit our campuses. I will say probably every single one of our institutions has some sort of summer opportunity or summer program for your students. That's an amazing way to get started on the college search process before you start getting really serious about the application process in your senior year. So come visit us out in DeKalb. We've also got a campus in Naperville for particular programs, and we also offer online programs as well. Thank you and good evening.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth. I'm excited to tell you all about College of DuPage. I hope that at some point all of you make it out to visit us at some point. College of DuPage has about 25,000 students, give or take, in a year. We have our average classroom size is about 29 students per class, so we still have smaller classrooms. We don't have big lecture halls. All campuses. Our main campus is in Glen Ellen, but we do have different centers around the district. You have a center locally, and the closest one is Westmont. So although not all classes are offered at the Westmont campus, it may be more convenient for students to take classes there when possible. I think one thing that's really great is that College of DuPage offers so much, but at the same time, I know it can be confusing to students in knowing how to navigate a community college. So in a nutshell, community colleges offer kind of 2 different paths. One is for students looking to take general coursework to then transfer to an institution and complete their bachelor's degree. And then the second option is for students looking to go into the workforce or technical route, right? So as far as transfer options, College of DuPage has associate's degrees. The transfer associate degrees are typically the associate in arts, associate in science, or associate in engineering. We also have different types of partnerships, and these some of you have already heard of them, or you're hearing rumors about maybe sometimes COD becoming a 4-year. We are not. We are partnering with 4-year institutions to facilitate the transfer, make transfer that much smoother and an easier process for students. So we have 3+1 programs. Essentially, 3+1 is 3 years at COD. So think of it as like your freshman, sophomore, and junior year at COD, being taught by COD faculty, paying COD tuition. And then that +1, that's senior year at one of our partner universities, being taught by faculty from that partner university. But instead of students going to that partner university, their faculty come to COD. And the degree is essentially from that 4-year partner. The degree is not from College of DuPage. We also have 2+2 programs, kind of more the traditional, how people think of it, 2 years at COD, transfer 2 years at a university. So freshman, sophomore year at College of DuPage, junior, senior year at a university. But 2+2 programs are very well mapped out, right? Our departments from College of DuPage have worked directly with the departments from the local universities and mapped it out for the student to know exactly what courses to take so that they know that their classes are going to transfer, right? I think one misconception is a lot of times students think or might hear, I know someone that went to a community college and then it didn't transfer. Before my being at College of DuPage, I was a transfer counselor for many years. I will tell you that if you're thinking in any way, shape, or form that you might attend a community college just to get some gen eds out of the way, I highly recommend that you are in contact with the four-year institutions that you might be considering so that you know the policies and that you know the requirements, not only for the institution, but for that particular major. The other option was more of the workforce and technical route. We have lots of different programs that students can take at College of DuPage. Some of the most popular ones, culinary, have a beautiful culinary building, our Homeland Security building, and there's over hundreds of them. But one that I'm really excited to share is our Project Higher Ed apprenticeship program. And so College of DuPage has partnered with local businesses where they are just creating these really great experiences and opportunities for students to be employed full-time salary and benefits. They're taking 1 or 2 classes per semester so students can complete their degree without any debt. The employers are paying tuition, books, and fees. And then lastly, I just want you to think of your local community college. It's for you. You can maximize college to however best fits your college experience. One reason why I want all of you to go visit at some point is because it's yours. You all pay property tax dollars, right? A portion of your tax dollars are going straight to the community college. And so sometimes students think of it as like all or nothing, and I just want you to know that you can use it to however best fits your experience, again, in communication with that four-year institution. So sometimes students just go to take a class, and then they're going straight to a four-year. Maybe they come home over the summer to take a class, but all should be planned out with the four-year institution. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists. And as you can hear, we have so many perspectives that will be shared tonight. And obviously, we have 5 institutions represented up here. But our representatives here tonight have so many different perspectives to bring from the table. You are truly in great hands. Like I said, they're representing 5 institutions today. But collectively, this group has worked at nearly 15 different institutions, both in-state, out-of-state, public, private, small, medium, large. So panelists, feel free to share anything you would like to as we kind of discuss the different options that students have available to them. So, and yes, I did some LinkedIn stalking. I'm sorry. You saw the view, right? You saw the view. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with tonight's Q&A. And panelists, I'd love to start with, when I'm meeting with students talking about college and what colleges they're interested in, one of the first questions that I ask students is, well, what are you looking for? And so many students say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for or what is the right fit for me. And to get started, whoever wants to chime in at any time, what do you think is important for a student to know or be aware of about themselves as they begin to explore and assess their college options?
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. It doesn't have to go in order the whole night, right?
No. Mix and match.
But I will start because I think it's really important to ask yourself a few key questions. Number one, what kind of setting would you like your college experience to be in? Do you want to be at an urban campus, so based in a city, a suburban campus, so kind of in this kind of nature, like a Lewis is a great example of a suburban campus, and then a traditional or rural type of campus, right? So a little bit farther away, but more of a true college town feel. And some campuses can have a mix of all of them, but visiting that campus is really going to give you an idea of what the campus setting best suits you. In addition to that, you should visit multiple campuses, right, to experience that. Also, you want to be looking at the size. Do you want a large campus? Do you want a medium-sized campus? Or do you want a small campus where you know most of the people on your campus? And that's something, again, where you're going to want to visit multiple campuses in those settings to experience that. And I remember when I was going through my college search, I did multiple different types of visits as well. I visited friends who are already at the institution. I visited at a traditional college visit. I visited different departments or things that I was connected to or interested in at the university. So there's really no wrong way to do the visit as long as you actually get foot on the campus and see what it's like to be a student and see if you can see yourself there. So once you have that kind of foundation, then you can start really narrowing down your list. And then a lot of us will say to go through the process and then not to forget, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later today as well, but the financial fit and having a conversation with your family. What is going to fit for your family financially the best after the 4 years?
I'm going to expand on that a little bit because this process in and of itself is an odd, weird process, right? All of a sudden, we're saying to students, well, what do you want? And they're like, well, I don't know. And so what we're asking you to do, or the best kind of homework you can do, students, is to spend some time with yourself and think about what gets you out of bed in the morning. What do you want to do that you've never done before? Can you feel comfortable to be a plane ride away from home? Do you want to follow a path or do you want to create a path? I had a conversation with a mom before we started and shared this little tidbit. So I have 3 children. They've all gone to college. They're done with college. And my son was very unsure about size in particular. And he said, I have no idea, Mom. So we went and visited one of each, a large, a middle, and a small. And we went on the tour and looked around and listened. And then he asked to sit in on an introduction to psychology class in each of those different institutions. Not because he wanted to study psychology, but because every school has one, and it would give him a sense for what that would feel like as a student at those 3 different types of institutions. The big school, he was like, no, I wouldn't pay attention. The professor was way down there. I don't think it was a professor. I was not paying attention. I was like, okay. Small school. Now, I am a small school girl, have been forever. We go to a small school, he goes to class, he comes out, he says, absolutely not. I was like, wait, what? I would have to talk every day, Mom, and I do not want, that is not comfortable to me. I was like, are you sure? He's like, yes. And so that allowed him to really focus in on a subset of schools. But he had to think about what is going to be comfortable for him in a learning situation. Are you a doer or are you a watcher? If you're a doer, you better find a place where you're going to have the opportunity to do. And so really, students, you have to be selfish in this process. You have to say, hey, Mom, like that sounds really cool to you, you're not going. Let me say that again. Parents in the room, you're not going. And so this needs to be a bit of a selfish, introspective process for students.
I will echo everything that my colleagues have said. I will say I do not envy the position that everyone is in, right? Over 4,000 colleges and universities in the country. You've got 5 here represented who are going to tell you that we represent amazing schools that are a really good fit for a lot of students. The fact is you're going to find multiple schools that you are a good fit for. This idea of good match, you're going to find a lot of schools that are going to be a good match. What I will say is communication is key. Students, this is the time to share with your parents what ideas you have about what you're thinking about your college experience. If you're thinking you're going to go out of state and you're just so sure you just want to leave home, communicate that to your parents. Don't surprise them senior year with an application to schools out of state only. Parents, I would say give your students the opportunity to explore. But certainly open those lines of communication so that they feel comfortable. I can't tell you how many students just can't wait to leave home. And then I work with a ton of transfer students who are like, I can't wait to come back home. And I think that sort of leads to the point I wanted to make. It always feels like a finality. You're making this life decision. But do understand that people like us exist for a reason. We're here to advocate on your behalf. We're here to tell you give you as much information as we can to help you all make educated decisions about your college choice. But if that doesn't work in the first year, in the first semester, we're here to guide you to the other institutions that you might be able to call home. understand that we just want to make sure that you're equipped to make those transitions no matter what you decide. So it's okay. It's okay not to know. It's okay to be certain, but take the advice that we're giving. Visit before you apply, visit after you've been admitted. And then I will also say one really amazing way to explore is doing summer visit programs. Sophomores and juniors in the crowd right now, I will say there's a ton of summer opportunities with scholarships. Schools will pay for you to attend those summer programs so you can explore majors further, so that you can explore universities further. And oftentimes those opportunities are tied to additional supports when it comes to the application process, whether that means they're going to waive an application fee or they're going to provide an additional scholarship. So there's a lot of ways to start doing exploration now.
And I would say that beside all of those things that they're talking about, for me, it was a little bit different. I was first gen as well, and so me or my parents kind of had no idea where to even start. And I mean, I had a good staff at my high school, so that was very helpful. And if you have those people, please use them because they're already getting paid to be here. So set up an appointment and go see them. But my whole thing was, I'm so involved at my high school. I want to go to a school that also has a lot of activities that I'm interested in. Because a lot of the times, all of us will have your major, right? Like that's kind of a thing. If you, like she mentioned before, if you want to go into psychology, we all have it. Like, for the most part, they're the same. And don't let anybody no, but ours is #1. It's the same psychology program. I went through the one of the top ones as well, and it's the same. But what I was more interested in is what was I going to do outside of class. And so I did go away to another Big Ten that wears orange and blue. I won't say a name, but it's probably the best Big Ten, even though I work here. And it absolutely was one of those things where I got to school and I was like, what else am I going to do besides go to class? Like, I only have 2 classes today. That takes up 2 hours. And what else am I going to do? And so for me, my non-negotiables that I was looking for was the stuff that I would do outside of class. And so would I get to be in a choir? Would I get to play club basketball? Would I get to join the skydiving club but never actually jump out of the plane because I got too scared? But I got to at least join it. And so I think sometimes we always think about the major and what do you want to do, which you're 17 and you still have to ask to go to the bathroom, and we're like, what do you want for life? But I do feel like it's the things that you do while you're there that make the best experiences for you. I can remember all of the extracurricular activities and trips and things that I took while I was at U of I, but I probably remember about 5 or 6 of the classes, and I got out in 4 years. And so I think we spend a lot of time talking about the academics and what are you going to do for life and what are you going to do that's going to make you money, but you also want to think about what are you going to do with all that time. And it's not like catch up on Cartoon Network or watch Netflix, but it's what can you get involved with on your campus, and no matter what size, all of our campuses are run by the students. And so your interests, what you uniquely bring to our campuses is what actually makes our campuses better. It's not we have a better professor, but we have these super cool clubs and organizations and opportunities that have been brought by other students. So my advice when thinking about the next college or your college that you want to go to or what you want to do is think about your time outside of class, and if that school doesn't have any of the things that you have as an interest outside of classroom, even if they have the #1 program, which we'll talk about rankings later, it's probably just not the school for you, no matter if the program is #1 or not.
We're talkers. We're still on question 1. But I just want to give a different perspective coming from a community college. We are just as busy in the spring than we are in the fall, right? For all the students that are coming back, that are transferring, whether it's the second semester of their first year or their second year. So echoing a little bit of what Maida talked about, communication. Aside from academics, aside from, focusing on the student's path, communication about what's going on and being honest with things that are going on at home is key. The pandemic gave us a really close view to mental health, right? And so there's a kind of this misconception that students that go to community college are students that just weren't admitted to their choice, right? Totally not the case. We have a lot of scholar students that were admitted to their school of choice, but for very personal reasons, something sometimes going on at home, it might have been a better choice, or for them, it was the right choice to stay local, whether it was just for a semester or a year or to complete their associate's degree, right? There's different paths, but it's very disheartening to be talking to a family in January, that all these things suddenly came to light, right? That maybe should have been talked about before students were making big decisions about where to go, whether it be finances, health, just family dynamics. We all have a story. Those are all very important to talk about as well, especially first generation students. You carry already a big responsibility of being the first, not having those you carry the responsibility of being the first, so not having those conversations sometimes sneak up on us later.
Awesome. All right. So many of you touched on the visiting aspect of this process, doing different types of visits, visiting different sizes, visiting before and after you were admitted. Going along with that, additionally, are there any best practices or helpful strategies for visiting a college campus? And what value do these visits add? Anything anyone would like to add to that topic?
I will give my personal perspective. I was a tour guide at U of I, and it was actually the way that I got involved with other things on campus, specifically with this beauty next to me, because I worked in the admissions office as a student. And so when you're going on the tours, I know the bigger questions that a lot of people always ask is, how is your program ranked? Like, what's the rank of your program? Or they ask, how's the food, which has gotten so much better. Like, you gain so much weight, just eat it, But I think some of those really important questions are, do students stay on the weekends? Are there activities for me to do during the week? How is your study abroad program? How do your internships work for your campus? If you have a student tour guide, which most of you will, ask them their personal experience. Ask them what their major is. Ask them if they are first gen. Ask them some of those questions that maybe are personal to you, because the most that you're going to learn, we all have things that we're going to tell you about our schools. It's going to be general, but we don't know exactly what you're looking for, what you're asking. So you may say something along the lines of, do you offer research? And yes, we do, but the better question is, do you offer research for freshmen? Because I'm interested in research now. And so you want to think about those things that are going to be specific to your time on this campus and what you're thinking about as those important things that we talked about before. And also the first thing is just go. You will get videos, and we pay people to make pictures and videos, and they look so beautiful. But if you don't step foot on the campus, you won't get the idea of what it's like. And of course, you have a lot of times in the summer to visit, but I think visiting during the school year kind of gives you a different perspective of when classes are changing, how busy does it get, how busy is the dining hall at 12 when you're on campus. Think about yourself in that place. And I think when you think about the questions more specific to you as opposed to general, I want to know this about every school, like who has the better insert thing here, it becomes a better experience because you can write those notes and actually remember, and try to fit in what you actually want to know versus what you think you should know. And I know sometimes for parents it's really difficult to take over the tour, but do let your student ask questions that may be a little bit more important to them, and maybe you're not thinking that it's important to them.
Get your hands on the student newspaper. Look at the posters and the signs that are posted, right? Listen to what students are talking about. If you haven't figured this out already, we're paid to tell you good things about our schools, and we're going to, right? Students are wonderfully honest. And so I would highly encourage you to really kind of look for those things that we're not showcasing necessarily, but that we're proud of, that are going to resonate for you in an unpaid solicitation kind of way.
Awesome. All right. So now, thank you so much for that, panelists. I do want to talk about academics. And that is because, the workforce has changed so much in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I was working with a student 5 years ago. He said, Mr. Daly, I want to major in health informatics. I said, health what did you just say? There are new careers and majors being created every single day. So, representatives, what sort of academic or major trends have you seen throughout your career in admissions leading up to this point? And how has your institution been responsive to the evolving needs of the workforce?
if I can get this to work. There we go. I would say one of the evolving trends that I see is this idea and this concept of experiential learning. I know it's also one of the questions, so I wanted to sort of weave it in here. For those of you who are curious, it's the opportunity to get hands-on experiences outside of the classroom. And I think a lot of us are starting to talk about these programs. I'll tell you one at NIU that we're very, very proud of. It's a partnership with Braven. Braven is a company where they have people who are leading global enterprises and organizations and asking those people to teach classes. So we hire students, we put them in an internship for a semester, we pay them to work, and they're getting paid to get actual experience within a field from an entrepreneur, from somebody who's leading their own company. We're, I believe, one of like 3 partners in the country. Experiential learning, I think, is one of those trends that you're going to see because it gives you life practical experience. I remember graduating and I was like, I know everything in theory about political science, but I have no actual experience. And so these opportunities really give students more than a chance to continue to add to their resume, an opportunity to say, is this something that I want to pursue as a career? And often actually put themselves in a career path that may align with the thing that they're hoping to pursue, right? There's so many ways you can take programs of study. I shared I was a political science major for undergrad, and I had no idea what I was going to do with that as a career. I have ended up in higher education, and I see now how much it weaves, the interest that I have in political science weaves into my career in higher education. But when we're 16, 17, we don't really see those things. So experiential learning opportunities really give us a chance to explore different options and things that are exciting for us in terms of what you may want to pursue, how you see yourself working, how you see yourself working with others, in getting that practical experience, and again, continuing to add to your resume so that when you're graduating from colleges and universities that you say, this is what I've actually done in the field.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And in addition to that, University of Maryland and a lot of these schools here have spoken on how most of our students are multidisciplined. When you think about your interests, it's not just one thing, right? There's multiple things you're interested in. And universities are really working to make that happen within your degree programs, whether it's double major and minor, which is kind of traditionally how we did it. Or, for example, University of Maryland, we have a program now called Immersive Media and Design. It's through our School of Business, School of Art, and our School of Computer Science. So you're not graduating with one of those colleges, but all of them, right? And you're working together with all of those different pieces. Or some of our first-year living learning programs, we want them to be different than your actual major. So maybe you're in our digital cultures and communities floor, but you're a biology major. And we want you to express those different things and those different passions. So then when you go out into the real world, you show that you're multifaceted to an employer, and employers want that as well. They don't want single one dimension. Well, most don't. There's a few that do, I'm sure.
So one thing that I'll at the community. Can you hear me? Oh, there I am. We have a lot of students that are constantly coming back. They're lifelong learners, right? They're coming back for additional credentials. So we have students that are majoring in engineering, but that may either while they're in high school or over the summer take a general manufacturing class or a welding class. They're typically thought of as like career workforce courses, but they now understand, or someone is mentoring them, why having that just general knowledge is important. We have students that are maybe pursuing nursing come back and do our certified nursing assistant certificate, and that's going to be their college gig. So it's also just, someone mentioned it up here, but this different way of looking at your education and having those credentials and how you can move around. So again, the community college is there for like all levels. So we have a lot of families that are attending the student, right out of high school, and maybe a parent who's coming back for a second or third credential.
And for us, we've been focusing a lot on entrepreneurship for our students and kind of those startups. And so Northwestern has something that we call the Garage, and you can go on our website, and it's actually pretty awesome. We have a couple of locations, one in Chicago, one in San Francisco, one in the Merchandise Mart, which is in downtown Chicago. And for all of those students who are thinking about like a startup, a new company, a nonprofit, they want to build something with their hands, they have this opportunity to get funding to do all of the things that they want to do. And it could be in the Chicago location, it could be at the Evanston location, it can also be in San Francisco. And so if you're thinking like, I want to go into bioengineering and I really want to work on, building prosthetics, that is a thing that has started into our garage, and we've had over 1,000 startups come from that garage since it's been open, and we have over 500 mentors and things like that that'll help students. So I think one of those big things is that people have so many more ideas about what they want to do, and sometimes you just need someone to help you build it. And so Northwestern has fostered that completely and found a way to help you build out those amazing ideas with the funding that you need, but also with the mentorship that you need to make sure that you can start whatever thing it is that you want to build.
Thank you so much. One thing that we talk a lot about here at LT is community building, belonging, and that kind of ties into the college admissions process too, in terms of finding your fit and all of that. So panelists, for those who'd like to chime in, how is your institution making diversity and equity a priority? And if you'd like to highlight a program or an initiative on your campus, feel free to do so as well.
I'm going to highlight 3. So you can go to our website, and there's a very public student statement of culture available for anyone to see. It was written by our students, it's followed by our students, it's a commitment to diversity of all kinds, and a challenge to the university, the college, to live up to what that student statement of culture is. We also have outlined a program called Becoming Better. And Becoming Better involves being a good community member for all students. The final thing I'll talk about is a program that was launched this summer. The website is called Why Bother Wisconsin. And our students, a group of our students, were very concerned about the low voter registration and voter participation of college-age students in this country. And so they created a website where students can easily see how, even if they're attending an out-of-state college, they can vote, where they can vote. And then our students challenged other colleges and universities in the state of Wisconsin to join this initiative. They were able to move a polling place in the city of Beloit 2 blocks so it existed on our campus. They petitioned our administration to have voting election day as a school holiday, because I don't know if you know this, but in every other country, election day is a national holiday, not in our country. So our students were not telling each other how to vote, or yes, who to vote for. They were telling each other how to vote and the importance of this. And I think that in and of itself speaks to our commitment to becoming a better and more diverse place.
For the University of Maryland, diversity is at the forefront of our institution, and it really speaks for itself. We have 47% of our undergraduate students that identify as students of color. We're really in a phenomenal location in Maryland that it's just so diverse where we're at, right? The nature of Washington, D.C. being such a transient city, people coming from all over, working at the different embassies and different things of that nature, you're really going to get that full piece there. In addition to that, we have multiple different offices as well as cultural resource centers on our campus that our students really get involved in and really enjoy on the campus. And then you actually sparked me with the website. We also do have a website as well. It's actually a little bit different. It's called Code Red, and Code Red was done by our environmental science program, and they went into Baltimore and did all of the major blocks and noticed the temperature degree radiance variation based on income distribution. So the lower income neighborhoods were actually warmer than the higher income neighborhoods. So we worked with the political science department and our tech team over in computer science and our journalism school, and they all worked together to create this code red that talks a little bit more about low income contributing to global warming and how economic equality would reduce that effect. In addition to that, it did so well that now NPR runs that program and sponsors us. So you can see a little bit more about that on that website. But that made me think of that as well, outside of all of the initiatives we have on our campus.
Yeah, there it is. That's the sweet spot. I think when we talk about diversity, it's important to talk about diversity broadly defined. We tend to think about diversity as it relates to race and ethnicity, but I think a lot of our institutions will represent different resource centers, multicultural centers, and different initiatives that, in fact, support diversity as it is broadly defined. So I'll talk a little bit about our Disability Resource Center. We have this center that's specifically focused on supporting students. And I want to highlight the center in specific because disability resources at the high school, they are very different when you are looking for or soliciting those types of services at the college level. In high school, very often students can go through counseling services to get IEPs and get a plan of study that is helpful for them. At the college level, there's a level of self-advocacy that has to happen that is sparked from the student. So I say self-advocacy because students are required to seek out these services and provide documentation that will ensure that they're able to get these services. And I want to talk about this because I want to ensure that I'm empowering students to think about how they can request accommodations when transitioning to colleges and universities. So that's one. I think as we're talking about diversity broadly defined, we've all mentioned a little bit about first-generation students. At NIU, over 56% of our student population are identify as first-generation students. We've got a week that is specifically focused on supporting initiatives where students tell their stories. They connect with professors who are first-generation, staff of the university that are first-generation, and we are in the process of annotating all of those stories because they help to build on the history and community and create a sense of belonging for first-generation students on our campus. And the last initiative that I'll highlight is our Gender and Sexuality Resource Center. We do provide a lot of different types of trainings for students and on behalf of students, for professors and for staff, because these resources are available for anyone who is interested in learning more about the community, not just students who are hoping to self-identify or looking for support services as I identify across a spectrum of different gender identities and sexual orientation. We offer a trans ally training. We offer an LGBTQIA+ training. And then we are, I said the last initiative, but I do want to make sure that I highlight, we have recently come into partnership with the Dream.US, which is a scholarship for undocumented students. Like I said, we're one of 17 institutions in the country that has partnered to ensure that we provide funding for undocumented students in this, who are attending Northern Illinois University.
We have a lot of everything that everybody else up here has mentioned, kind of like we have, you know, all of these different things. But I think what's important is that when you're thinking about like diversity and inclusion and the way that diversity, like Myra talked about, the different diversity, it's that even if those things don't personally affect you, you can still be involved in them. And so if there is, like, we have a Native American and Indigenous programming that happens on our campus, and just because you're not Native American doesn't mean that you shouldn't go. And I think it's a really great opportunity, especially at all of our universities, that even if you don't fall into some of those categories, is to go explore them and to learn about those categories and to learn about those people and to learn about all of these different things that may not affect you. And I think that it can only enrich your experience at some of these universities. Like, just because you're not a minority doesn't mean that you can't go and use the resources at Minority Student Affairs, or you can't go and go to the food day that's happening at, you know, like the African American Cultural Center. And so I think that part of diversity, even though we have all of these things, and if you feel like you just don't fit, I think it's super important to just jump out of your comfort zone a little bit and go explore one of these things that we've all talked about. And I think that will only help enrich your college experience, no matter where you go, if it's small or big.
We will be launching a first-generation support group called Lions First here at LT to help our first-generation students. So, quick little plug. Great. Thank you so much, panelists. That was awesome. I would like to quickly talk about, if there's two things about this process that I think we are kind of programmed to think about, it's testing and rankings. And I'm not going to talk about testing, but rankings. How important are rankings for families and students when looking, throughout the admissions process? And how can students and families use them responsibly?
I think I think rankings are a double-edged sword, in my opinion. We get judged in every way at our universities. It's the business program, the psychology program, the STEMs in general, the engineering program. There's all of these little intricacies. And I think it's important when you are using rankings to know what those rankings actually mean. And so if someone says that they have the #1 psychology program, what is it for? Is it because they have some of the best professors and they've gotten these, crazy awards? Or is it because of the job placement afterwards? Or is it because of the opportunities that they offer while they're there? And so I think the thing about rankings is that you don't want to choose a school because of the ranking, but the ranking can just be in addition to what you've already liked about the school. And like I mentioned earlier, just because the school is the #1 business program, that doesn't mean that you're going to get out and have a better job than someone that went to the program that's ranked 20. And that's not how the rankings actually help you. Or it doesn't mean that when you graduate with your undergraduate business degree that you're going to be making $150,000 out the bat. You're going to be making the same amount if you're going into that same area as the person who went to the business program that's not ranked at all. And so we're learning the same things, but I think you can only use it maybe if it's something very specific, like they're #1 in their internships that they offer for freshmen in engineering, or they're #1 in their job placement of students who are in a specific major. Those rankings mean a lot more, because just because your program is #1, let's say you get there and you hate it. But you went to the #1 business program, but now you don't want to be a business major. What did that ranking help you decide? And I think that's the importance of rankings. And so my personal opinion is that rankings aren't the end-all be-all, and if you're only going to a school because of the rankings, then you're not going for the right reasons in general, and they're not going to help you if you don't graduate from that particular area.
Yeah, I think rankings, a lot of times we get caught up in sports, right? Sports, the #1 team or something like that. A lot of people get really involved in rankings because you can kind of rank sports. We can say maybe Tom Brady's a great quarterback, maybe not. I don't know how people feel in here. But right? So I think we get involved in that because there's actual statistics there that you can back up and actually have a ranking and say, okay, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, right? But when it comes to colleges, it's different because every person is different. Each of you in here are looking for something different. Now, you can use ranking as a starting for your research points, but really what you want to be looking at is each university's what research they're offering, what internships they're offering, what their faculty bios look like. If you are a student who knows specifically what they want to study, what they want to be passionate about, every university has their faculty and each member and what their specialties are within their field. And you can really see that and be able to understand, okay, I'm really interested in quantum physics, but specifically the quantum manium involved in Marvel Comics. There might be a professor that's super interested in that and does research on that, and that would be a really good match school for you, right? I just made that up, but I think it's relevant. I mean, I watch Marvel movies, so. But that's the kind of idea. You want to find a university that matches what your interest or passion is.
At the end of the day, every ranking is designed to make money. You need to understand that. Did U.S. News and World Report call your house yet to ask you what would be the #1 ranked college for you as an individual? I'm guessing they haven't. So you need to understand that this is a very individualized process. And the more you own it, the more you will find the #1 ranked school for you.
All right, thank you. We'll wrap up with 2 more questions just quickly here to end the night. This will be kind of a rapid fire, but panelists, I'd love if you could share the advantages to various school sizes, a large school, a small school, a medium-sized school. You can share your experience of your institution or maybe the school you went to, but maybe share the advantages of one of those 3 sized options.
Just to talk about middle size, I went to Illinois State for my undergraduate, which is truly a middle size university. And with it being a middle size, it was really nice because you got to know people, you found your community. When you walked on campus, you waved hi to people, you saw similar faces, but then there were still people you didn't know. And that's kind of where the middle size sits, right? You can walk on campus and see friends, but then there's also lots of new people to meet and people you've never met before.
Well, it's small. I mean, we're everything that they aren't, right? So our average class size is 12 students in a class. You will have PhD faculty members. You will be very involved because the opportunity exists. You're competing against less others. And many, many small schools specialize completely on undergraduate education. And so we're not worrying about what all these other places do really well. We're focused on that first 4 years that a student is out of high school.
Awesome, thank you. And then our last question tonight is the money question, because that's a very important aspect of the college process. So panelists, I speak with students all the time about finding a good financial fit, but whoever would like to chime in, can you share one strategy or tip on how students can plan ahead financially for college and put themselves in a good spot to find a school that's a good financial fit for them?
With the financial fit, I think one of the most important things is to know that the amount that you see for a lot of our schools is what we call like the sticker price. So parents, you probably think of it as like when you go to get a new car, there's a sticker price, right? But then you go in and talk to the dealer. We're not the dealer, so don't think of it that way. But think about it as that, like that. Realize when I said it, I'm like, it's dealer. That sounds kind of bad. But when you think about it, that's the main price, right? And a lot of the times the housing cost is going to be the average housing, so you can go up or down. The meal plan is going to be the average cost, and you can go up or down. And then the tuition cost is one of those things where that is where you get scholarships, whether it be merit-based or like at Northwestern, it is need-based. So it's based only on your FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, and the profile that you can fill out with College Board. And so if it gives you an estimated family contribution, and Northwestern meets that need. And so there's a lot of different ways, but I think one of the things that students don't think about and parents don't think about is we have all these numbers listed, but the opportunity to apply for outside scholarships or non-institutional scholarships is going to be such a game changer for you guys. And I think a lot of the time students are like, I'm applying to Northern, I'm going to get Northern's financial aid letter, and that is just the end of it. And so now I can't afford to go to Northern because of insert thing here, or I can't afford to go to Maryland because of insert thing here. But there's so many scholarships that are non-institutional, meaning that you can apply for them and they can go to most any of our institutions. Specifically, I know a lot for 4-year that will aid in those. And don't just apply for the ones that are 10,000. Apply for the ones that are 5 and 2, because they absolutely add up. And it means that if you are applying to Maryland and Northwestern, or Maryland and Northern, and you decide that like at the last minute you want to switch from Northern to Maryland or vice versa, all of those scholarships go with you. And so I think the summer, especially right after your junior year, start looking at scholarships that you are eligible to apply for. And normally you can start applying then, and you already know like, hey, I already have $20,000 that I know I'm getting from these other scholarships, and now I can add that into what my financial is going to be from whatever university, no matter where you're applying. And so my number one rule and number one tip, I think, is just apply for those outside scholarships. The sticker price can kind of change depending on a couple of things that we have going on. It has nothing to do with you, really. But those scholarships are yours and yours alone, and you can take them with you wherever you go.
And another quick plug, I feel like I'm on QVC, but we're also starting a scholarship club here at LT. So it's only for seniors, so you can't join it yet, but when your student is a senior, we meet the first Wednesday of every month during lunch periods to talk about upcoming deadlines that month for scholarships, like different strategies, different things coming up. So we are trying to utilize the scholarships too, and that's a great tip.
I want to bring in the perspective of taking college courses earlier. Coming from a 4-year, I can't stress enough how you should talk to your admission reps from whatever universities you're considering to know the conditions of your scholarship. We have a lot of students who are balancing two things. I want to get ahead. I took some AP, but I want even more credit before I go to my 4-year. So they're coming to COD and trying to take some classes. They're not going to complete their associate's degree. They're just there to take some classes because they want to, get ahead. And they don't realize that if they're taking X amount of courses at the community college, they may be potentially jeopardizing their freshman scholarship because now you're considered a transfer, right? So it's so important for you to talk to your future institutions about what that looks like. Earlier, Maida talked about communication. I'm going to bring it back to that. I feel like I see one or two things: either students whose family are very financially well off, they've done some pre-planning, they are like super nervous and worried about money. And then there are students that think they really are good, and they're the ones that their families haven't had an honest conversation about, we're really not able to. So bringing it back to that honest conversation of where you are as a family, or how much support you could or could not provide. At College of DuPage, we have a scholarship that is our Scholars Award program. It could potentially cover the 2 years of 64 credit hours. The deadline is typically in March. So what happens? Many students are not considering the community college, right? They're not thinking about COD. They're only considering the 4-year. And then in May, when things like kind of start happening, get more real, the first thing they'll ask me when they get into my office is, are there scholarships? Well, yes, but that deadline passed. You weren't considering COD at that time. So my recommendation is always, it doesn't hurt to have, to apply if you end up going somewhere else. We promise you're not going to hurt our feelings if you don't choose our institutions. But what we want you to have is a good plan, an A option, a B option, and maybe even a C option, right? And so a lot of times students just come into our office just a little too late to get those scholarships, and they're scholars. They would have gotten the scholarship. 1 year at College of DuPage is about $4,000. Again, it's not cheap. So when your students tell me I chose COD because it's really cheap, it makes me cringe, and I'm going to send them back home to you and ask them and have them ask you if you think their tax dollars are cheap, right? They don't realize, right, that you've already invested a lot of money into College of DuPage.
I just want to make one more point. It will really drive home the point that Elizabeth has made. Public institutions by law are required to take a certain score for AP exams. If your students are taking AP classes, they score a 3, a 4, or a 5, we are required to take either award credit or give you placement at a university for those scores. So if you can take AP exams, that means that you're going to be saving yourself some credit by bringing particularly 4s and 5s, I will say. If you bring them to our institutions, you'll have saved yourself some money and some courses through that earned credit. You can do the same taking courses at a community college, but be informed. So talk to admission counselors from universities and from the colleges as well to ensure that you are not losing your first-year student standing or freshman student standing and being considered a transfer, to ensure that the courses transfer as well. And then the last point, again, just driving it home, be aware of deadlines. NIU offers 10 full ride scholarships for 4 years. 10 full ride scholarships for 4 years to students, but the deadline is a strict deadline of December 1. We don't take test scores. We're a test-free institution, but we use the GPA to qualify students. If they have a 4.0 or above, we're automatically going to send you a letter that says you're invited to apply for the presidential scholarship. But December 1, we make no exception. So again, be aware of deadlines. They can make or break. I mean, imagine a full ride to an institution.
We're in reading season right now, meaning that like students have already started applying and we're already making kind of decisions on those applications at this moment, and that I was doing all day. The way that we're looking at students specifically at a lot of our larger schools, is going to be very holistic. And I know you guys probably hear holistic a lot, and then you're like, yeah, it's not really holistic. What it is like the test score or whatever the case is. But a lot of our institutions are test optional now, and so it really is, the most important part is going to be the transcript, the classes that your student has access to versus the classes that they've taken and the grades that they've gotten in those classes. That's going to be our number one focus in general, like no matter what schools you're looking at. And I think sometimes people think that it's about like what we're over here, like how can we deny this kid? Like we're looking for the ways to deny them. And that's actually not it. We're thinking about, in general, will your student be successful? And most importantly, will your student be okay on our campuses? And so the grades are going to be first because we know that they have to go to class. And then we want to see that they are involved in something, not 15,000 things, but at least they focus on a couple of things that they actually put the time and dedication into. Also, when you're talking about the essays, we're not necessarily looking at the content of the essay, but is the essay at least at an 18-year-old would write? And so we're not looking for you to be a thesaurus and looking for you to be, where I'm at writing a dissertation, but we do want you to, where I can read and follow your essay in those three parts. And then I think lastly, it'll be some of those, just the major that you're applying into, and some of those things will make the difference. But in general, one of the things that I try to tell students and their families is that just because your student didn't get accepted here, it most likely has nothing to do with your student, but just kind of the what we need to fill and how many students we need. And maybe we just had 5,000 more applications for engineering that year. Does that mean that your student won't be successful in engineering at Maryland? Absolutely not. It's just that maybe we just didn't have room. And so I think that's one of those things where we don't want students to think that when they get denied from a university that it's like their fault, because we're all looking at all of these parts and trying to make the best decision from an applicant pool. And I mentioned before, like Northwestern, we have a 7% acceptance rate. So most of the day, all I'm doing is saying no. But that's not against any student because I'm looking at all of them holistically and all the parts. And I think that's the most important part, is that it is all the parts, not just one thing that will make or break your student getting into a school.
To a degree, some of what makes all of this so crazy is you're going to hear it depends, right? You're looking at 5 different schools here, and we will all answer that question a little bit differently. And so it depends, right? At Beloit College, we're asking ourselves 2 questions. Do we believe the student can be successful from an academic standpoint? Would we want the student living with us for 4 years? Seriously. We're a residential college. What is that student going to bring to contribute to our community? And the way we look at that is extracurricular involvement, the essay, recommendations. Beloit College is also a school that really emphasizes writing across the curriculum. And so we pay a lot of attention to the essay that students write as part of their application process. So there's a school, there are many schools for each individual student. In the fall of next year, you'll be applying to colleges worried about where you're going to be admitted. In the spring of your senior year, you're going to be worried about which one am I going to choose. I promise you that, right? You are going to have a number of choices. You're going to break our hearts more often than we break yours.
And I'm going to make it super easy. If you have a 3.0 GPA or above, and you participate in something called a formulaic review, 3.0 or above, automatically admitted. So that your answer is that you need a 3.0. If you have lower than a 3.0 GPA, that's where we start to go into the holistic territory. We're going to ask for some more information. We're going to want to get context about who you are. So beyond grades, we want to know what you've been involved in. We want to know why you're interested in studying what you've selected. We want to know a little bit more from you from short essay questions that we have, but we're looking at all of those things together. But a lot of schools participate in a formulaic review, and so they'll tell you it's either formulaic or it's holistic. The formulaic will say, this is the formula. You plug into these things, automatically admitted. Holistic will tell you a little bit more of a, well, it depends.
page, right? Your tax dollars. But what I do want to share is we are creating partnerships for guaranteed admission with several universities. So we have an engineering pathway program, which is a guaranteed admission with the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign for their engineering department. We have guaranteed admission with UIC, TAG. It's UIC, tag.uic.edu. We have one with DePaul, Elmhurst. There's a couple of other universities where we have guaranteed admission, where a student will start at College of DuPage, complete their general education courses if they maintain the GPA that the university from the particular department is requesting, and they follow their coursework that the university has provided. They are guaranteed admission. They do not have to apply into the school. So a lot of times those have deadlines, right? Knowing about those partnerships earlier on. It's just another option.
All right. Well, that concludes tonight's program. Thank you so much for being here. Let's give another round of applause. Thanks again for being here tonight. Feel free to grab materials on your way out. Thank you.